Sweet. I'll get you spotlighted. Boom. So CPO Porty. I'm going to adjust the screen so you can see the team that's live here in front of me. Um, Portland Agnew. So Porty, he's speaking tonight on closing with every customer, right? Focusing on rapport and demo skills. And Portland, he's one of the best up and coming managers and young district managers in our company. Okay. So Portland, he's at $519,000 in his career sales. He sold personally over 130 grand, okay, before opening his office, and then some more of that while he was open. In Portland's second year as a district manager, his office did over 300 grand in sales, and he won the Rising Star Award at our VCA event. Porty, in his second summer as a DM, he won PLS. Do you remember that contest I talked about that Amir won as number one and Alex Bowles won at number two? Portland beat me for the seat at PLS this summer. It was close. Like 40 that we were fighting till the very last week. Amir told me this, Portland. I'm not sure if he told you, but we were talking and it was like during SC2. And so Amir was like, he told me, he said, dude, Portland came to me and was like, dude, Ron just dropped like a $27,000 a week. He definitely beat me. No, Portland won. Portland, he won and had a chance to go to PLS. I haven't won PLS. So
super close. It was super close.
It was close. But Portland was one of the top 15 district managers in Vector East this summer. So it was really good to see. Portland's biggest order while being a district manager, over 6 grand. At the time, he was making 50%. So that's a little 3K paycheck. Biggest week as a representative, 8 grand. Biggest push, 13 grand. By the way, he has an average order that's about 800 CPO and averages 18 recommendations per demo. So Portland, his closing percentage is over 95% with an $800 average order, like I mentioned. Definitely something we can all take from him and what he's doing well and bring it to his demos. So Portland, I appreciate you, sir. Thanks for giving back, and we're ready to hear the goods.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I appreciate you, Ron. Thank you so much for having me on for this. This is an honor, Ron, especially coming from you. I want to jump right into this thing. I want to go over pretty much 3 main topics that you guys can all really take away from this. And I also want to inform you guys, everybody that's listening in person, everybody that's listening on Zoom. These topics, these 3 bullet points that I'm going to talk about today, hopefully they're not things that you've heard a lot of. One thing about me, especially when I was selling and even now, one thing I really focus on with just the job in general is more than just tips and tricks that you learn. It's more of the psychology behind being a high-level salesman and just being and also being a good district manager as well. So those 3 topics, if you're taking notes, first, I'm going to go over the setup. I'm then going to go over the build-up. Then I'm also going to go over the drop-down. So the setup, the build-up, and then the drop-down. I will let you guys know, number 1 and 2, the setup and the build-up, are the most important things that you can take away from this call. The most important things. Because it makes the drop-down just that much easier. And I'm pretty sure you've all heard that before. But the setup and the build-up is super, super important. So I'll go ahead and hop right in. So the setup. The setup is building a lot of rapport. I know you guys have all heard that before, but more importantly, building quality rapport and also building a lot of relatable rapport. I like to look at it as getting to know a person versus playing 21 questions. You guys ever played that game before? Yeah. Getting to know a person versus just asking them a bunch of questions, right? You want to know pretty much everything about this person before you even open up your manual and start talking about Cutco. That is super, super important. You guys all know that if a customer feels comfortable with you, when you do get down to number 3, the drop down, it just makes it that much easier. So the main thing here is really getting comfortable with the person. Like they should be your friend by the end of this demo. That's one thing that I really take seriously in my demos. I believe, I've yet to seen it, So I believe that I have one of the most fun demos in the world. Like I really take pride in, and Ron knows me. I'm a pretty fun person, so it's not that hard, right? But I really do believe that if you can get to where your demos are so fun and you're really just having a good time, once you do get down to the price, you're building value, you're doing all the closing, you're doing all of that. Once you get down to that, it's just so much easier for them to say yes because they want to. Like they want to help you out. They want to, they really have a connection with you. So it's like think about it like this. When you were in your fast start, who are you seeing? People people that you're super comfortable with. It was a lot easier than to make a sale, even though you didn't really know anything about the demo. It was just a lot easier to make that sale because these are people that trust you. These are people that know you. So I really believe that if you're able to get that with a random person that you've never met before, it'll be the same thing. Like at the end of it, they should be calling you their son or their daughter, right? Like, so having a fun demo is super important. I think that's a little bit overlooked because of, the mindset is just, I want to make a sale. I want to make a sale. I want to make a sale. You have to understand that in order for you to do that comfortably, for you to have an average order like $800, for you to have a closing percentage of 95%, the customer really has to be bought into you. They have to like you, and they have to treat you like family at the end of the day, right? So having a fun demo really, and there's tons of things you can say during that building rapport session. I recommend if you've never seen it, there's a video that Alex Funk, if you guys have ever heard of him, he makes on YouTube, and he goes on to just talk about all the specific things he asks during the rapport session of the demo. I recommend you watch that. That's one of the videos that I first watched ever when I was a new rep. And that video really helped me a lot because I always had the spunk and I always had the fun, charming aspect, but I never really had like, what specific questions do you ask? Right? What are some things you want to know? And like I said, also relatable rapport, right? Think about it like this. If somebody is talking to you about something that you have no regard for, your turnoff time to stop listening to that person is going to be pretty quick. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like you think about that when you're talking to a person that's, sometimes they're twice your age. Right. If you're talking about something to them and it's not really anything that they care for, if you spend too much time on it, because there is a difference, because there could be something that you really find interest in that they just have no interest in. Notice that, right? Notice their body language. If it's something that they really don't care for, don't spend too much time on it. Right. It's cool. It's perfectly fine to mention it and say, yeah, this is what I do. This is what I love to do. Right. Totally cool to mention it. But at the end of the day, you're in their house. They're not in yours. Right. So be relatable to them. Be relatable to them. And then another thing on the setup is the best way, if you're taking notes, I would write this down in big bold letters. The best way to handle objections is to handle the objection before it ever comes up. Maybe you guys have heard that before, but the best way to handle objections is to handle that objection before it ever comes up. That way, when it does come up, right, you already have the advantage there. And all you have to do is backtrack to what you said before. For example, like if a customer is during the rapport section and the customer is talking about how they just had to pay for their son's baseball camp or whatever, right? And you, in your mind, you need to be thinking, okay, that's something that could possibly come up at the end. So something that I would say if I heard that was, oh yeah, really? Okay. What position does he play? Nice. Yeah. We actually have a lot of customers that are able to really split up the payments. That's what most customers do. Makes it cheaper to where things like that, like when those big things do come up, when you have to pay a large sum, just makes it a lot more affordable for customers. And you want to say that super subtle because you don't want to sound like you're overselling at the beginning when you haven't even talked about the knives yet. want to say that super subtle. You just want to say something along those lines that lets them know that that is totally normal. That is nothing that is new. Because in reality, it's not. Like, we have customers all the time that are paying for their sons or daughters' college, right? Or paying for pretty much anything, right? Their son just got a broken leg. Like, they're paying for that, right? We want to make sure that they know that that is normal. That is like, that's not a big deal, right? Especially if you hear them talk about it a lot. It is insinuating that when that comes up in the close, when you bring up the price or whatever, they're going to try to make that a big deal when in reality it's not. So that's on the setup. That's on the setup. Number two, the buildup. The buildup is super, super important. The setup sets up everything, right? The buildup is what keeps it stable to where once you're getting throughout the demo, the more and more you get throughout the demo, they are understanding what you are saying rather than just hearing what you are saying. So one thing that Amir taught us a lot, and one thing that I think is probably one of the most important things to do during your demo, is seed planting. Seed planting a lot. Saying the words throughout your demo. How many times can you say the word expensive? How many times can you say high quality? How many times can you say top notch, best of the best, the absolute best of its kind? One thing I say in my demos that I don't really know if anyone else says, I kind of made it up one day. Cutco's top 1% in durability, value, and affordability for kitchenware of this stature. Cutco is top 1% in durability, value, and affordability for kitchenware of this stature. Right. So getting them to understand early that, yes, Ms. Jones, this is not cheap stuff. It's not. This is not cheap stuff. It's one of those things to where you get what you pay for. Ms. Jones, what is the difference between Claire's jewelry and Kay's jewelry? Right? Claire's is $10. It's cheap. Claire's is thousands of dollars. It's better quality, better value, and it's what you get what you pay for. Right? It doesn't fade away. It doesn't turn green when you have it on in the shower. Right? It's the same thing with these kitchen knives. It's the same exact thing. Right? If you have a knife, Ms. Jones, like, look at your knife that you have here. How long have you had this? Okay, about 6 years. You see how this is already pretty much tearing apart. Okay, Ms. Jones, well, I'm going to show you this piece that I've had since 1985. That's also another thing. I recommend that you go, and not a lot of people do this. I do recommend this, though, especially if you want to be at that next level. Go on eBay one day. Look at and search for old Cutco. There are plenty of pieces that you will see that people are selling from 1980s, 1990s. I have a whole set of that Cutco, but it's not because of that reason. It's because my grandma, she had Cutco back in 19 whatever, right? Way before I was even thought of. And she passed that set to my mom. My mom passed it to me. So obviously it's a little easier for me to do that, but do that, right? Go on eBay, get that piece, send it back to the factory, get it sharpened, bring it on all your demos. That's an easy thing to do. It will cost you 40 to 50 bucks and make you thousands and on, you know? So seed planting a lot, saying those words: expensive, high quality, top notch, best of the best, the absolute best of its kind, top 1%, saying all of those things early and often, right? Setting the expectation before you even have to get to the close. And then another thing is, you remember how I talked about relatable rapport in the beginning. Another thing is giving tons of examples of things similar. And here's when I kind of go over the psychology of when you're talking to a person that you've never met before, especially when, you know, this is once you've got pretty comfortable with them, once you're already in the demo. They are not knife experts. You are, but they are not. So in the script, you're supposed to say full tang, all of that. But it's super, super important that you make it so easy for them to understand so they're not confused. right? So one thing that I say a lot, and I even say this like in my training seminars, is the same handles, the same material for handles that we use, the same thing that makes bowling balls, bowling pins, right? So Ms. Jones, if you look at a bowling ball, it's and a bowling pin, have you ever seen someone throw a bowling ball down the lane at 30, 40 miles per hour and it break? I mean, maybe once ever, if that, but most of the times, no. Why is that? Yeah, it's because of the material that we make Cutco with. It's the best of its kind. NFL football helmets, right? The same material that we use for our handles is the same material that they make NFL football helmets with. Ms. Jones, have you ever watched a game and you seen anybody break their helmet? Like no matter how hard they crash and they get CTE after, did the helmet break? Right? Like maybe once, right? But most likely not, right? And that's just because of the material. So the whole thing is finding those examples to make it clear to them what you are talking about, right? Because they just don't understand like you would understand. You went through a 14-hour or whatever it is training seminar to learn about this stuff. They did not, right? So using those real world examples to kind of put it together to where they understand it is super, super important. You do not want the customer confused. I don't know if you guys have ever heard this, but one of my favorite sayings with this business is a confused mind always says no. A confused mind always says no. Always. They will always say no if they do not understand fully. Right. So the best way to make them unconfused for the majority, right? There are some people that, they're been dealing with knives their whole life, they're a chef or whatever. For the majority, right, especially our target audience, they're not going to understand all the phrases and everything that you use that are in the demo. So it's super important that you find some type of real world examples that everybody can connect to. Everybody knows what bowling is. Everybody knows what the NFL is, football helmet. Like everybody knows that, right? So that's a couple things on the build up. Now, number 3, the drop down. Just remember what I said earlier, right? If you do number 1 and number 2 the right way, if they truly understand that you're a great person, they're super comfortable with you, and they understand the value of Cutco and why it's expensive, that it's high quality, that it's different than Claire's jewelry. If they understand this, the drop down process is just that much easier. It's just that much easier. So the drop down process, right? Because ultimately this, like even with me, right? Like I close pretty much on all of my demos. I honestly cannot remember the last time I had a no sale, just to be honest with all of you here. I really do not remember the last time I had a no sale on a demo. The drop down, it will come up, right? Like, especially if you're newer, right? Even for me now, like I said, it will come up. You will have to drop down. That's just a part of it, right? The drop down is super, super important. And here's the most important part of the drop down. And I actually learned, just so you guys know, I just want to plug this really quick. Alex Funk's YouTube channel, if you guys have ever heard of that, Alex Funk's YouTube channel is where to just be honest, is where I learned most of this stuff that I'm using from. Like, obviously, there's been a couple things that I've just figured out on my own, but a lot of the stuff that I learned is from Alex Funk. Like, I do kind of talk to him a little bit. A lot of the stuff that I'm teaching you right now is stuff that I learned from other people. So I also want to say this: whether you get a bunch of notes from this talk or not, I want you to you got to invest in yourself, right? Think about it like this: you're already here. You're already here. Make the most out of it, right? Nobody is the top 1% in their respective job, field, whatever, by doing what everybody else does, right? You're already here. Take in as much information as you can, but also seek out more information. Don't let it come to you, because that's kind of impossible, right? Go to it, right? Because if you think about it, taking your average order from a 500 to an 800 makes you a couple extra $100 on average. And it's not like it's not like the stuff that you look for and that you find is it takes you 4 or 5 hours to figure out. No, like if you watch a couple of videos, you spend about 2 hours or so a week on just advancing your skill set, like you will get better. It's just like anything else. All right. So I just wanted to say that because that is super important when you're doing this job. It's super, super important. So with dropping down, the best thing you can do when you are dropping down is dropping down with love and care. Dropping down with love and care. Here's what I mean by that. Being tender with your customer while also being assertive and not letting them control the conversation. More specifically, when they're talking, you're listening, not to respond, but to listen and understand. When you are talking, they should have no choice but to understand what you're saying because the way you say it, right? Like it's easy. And I make this example all the time because I'm 5'8", 140, right? Like it's easy for a 6'4" buff guy and he's talking to a customer and for them to say yes. It's easier. I'll say that. It's easier, right? But no matter who you are, what you do, like it doesn't really matter. If you are able to be assertive and just have that level of confidence to where you know you're going to make the sale here, your customers will feel that. They will know that they are going to buy something at the end of the day, right? Like they will feel that, right? But it's a way to do it, right? You have to be tender with your customer. And when we talk about the psychology, right, especially when it gets to this part, if you go into the demo, right, and your whole mindset is just to make a sale. Now, obviously, guys, we're working to make money. Like I get it, right? But if your mindset is just to make a sale, your customer will also feel that as well. They will feel that you are just there to be a part of your gain and not theirs, right? So you have to know that to have that little level of confidence. I do agree. But your goal is to make them feel like you are fine with or without the sale. Like obviously like I said, we're in this to make money. Cool. We want to make a sale. But just like I talked about with Rapport, right? Like you can't fake it. You have to be genuine, right? Whether you're the person that has to put on the front, right? Fake it till you make it. If that's what you got to do, that's what you got to do. In reality, it will turn out to be genuine. Because if I'm being honest, when I first started, that's exactly how I was. I was literally just working to make money and it showed. Right? That's why it took me a little while to sell 10K. Right. But after I kept doing that, putting on the front, not really being genuine in my heart, but putting on the front like I was, what it did was it made it to where it became reality at one point, to where like I actually like doing this. And you guys also got to understand that takes time, right? That's not something that's just going to happen overnight, right? So making them feel like you're fine with or without the sale. If you have that kind of nonchalantness to you, to where they are not feeling pressured and they're actually enjoying this, it just makes you sell so much easier. That is so overlooked. And I kind of hate that for a lot of people, but it's true, right? They have to feel like you are fine with or without the sale. It makes them want it more, right? Like if you guys ever tried to talk to a girl or tried to talk to a guy before, right? Like the more you kind of pressure or not make them feel pressured, right? The more you just let it come to them or let it come to you, the more they're like, oh, okay, like this is not the type of dude that He's thirsty, right? You don't want to be the thirsty salesman, right? You don't want to be the thirsty salesman. Um, and adding on to that, this is one thing that you guys really need to take note of here is it is all about how the customer feels. It's not about the deals. It's about how they feel. It's not about the deal. It's about how they feel. Nobody, and I mean nobody, will buy something from you if they do not like you. It does not matter if it's a hot sunny day and you're selling glasses of water for 2 cents. If that person does not like you, they are not going to get that glass of water from you. They would rather go pay $2 for someone that they like. Those are the facts. Nobody will buy something from you if they do not like you, or if they feel like they have to. If they don't like you, you're already done. If they feel like they have to buy from you, meaning you're being super pressuring, and they feel like they have to, that's when you start to get those objections to where what we call them in our office, we call them BS objections, right? They're called smokescreen objections, but we just call them straight up, they're BS objections, right? If they feel like they have to, that's when you get the, well, I actually have to go see my mom really quick. So let me get back with you later. And then we can finish this some other time. You know, they're not going to get back with you later. They're not going to call you to spend hundreds of dollars with you. That is not reality. Pretty much no one will do that, especially if they feel like they have to do that, right? So instead of that, number one and number two, the setup and the build up, that's why I said those are so important, because that's where you make it to where they already want it. By the time you get down, that's why I say, by the time you get down to the close and you have to drop down, they should already want it, meaning they should be working with you. And instead of saying, no, I don't know about that, and just leaving it at that, it should be, no, I think that's a little too much. What else do you guys have? You guys already know, if you have them there, like that's a sale. Like you made the sale. Right when they said that, you made the sale. You know, you confirmed it, right? Because they are working with you to try and get this stuff because they want it so bad because of what you did in number one and number two, that you don't even have to make them pressured, right? They don't feel like they have to because they already want it. And if they don't already want it by that time, just want to be real. You need to look in the mirror and you need to see, what did you do in number one and number two that made them feel this way? Because they should already want it. And then last thing, don't want to hold you guys too long. A thing that's super overlooked that a lot of people, I actually had like a couple workshops on this. And I recommend you guys doing this. Knowing what's possible in the app. Super underrated. Right? Like, I pretty much know everything that we can do. Now, a lot of that is because of how much time I've spent on that freaking app. Right? But for the most part, like, especially when I first started, like, I remember my first push, I went on the first 3 days of the push, I did zero demos. Zero. By the way, I was working at UPS when I first started the job, working 4 a.m. to 9 a.m., going straight to the office, demos, push for the whole push. First 3 days of the push, a lot of people know this by now. First 3 days of the push, I did no demos. We have a CSP in our office. His name is Nate Davis. It's his birthday, by the way, today. We have a CSP in our office. I went to watch him do every single one of his demos for the first, I think it was the first 2 days, really. Went to go watch him do every single demos, taking a lot of notes. Once he got down to the closing and he put everything in the app, guess what I was doing? Putting everything in the app with him. All right. So I suggest that you take some time. Like I said, it doesn't have to be 4 or 5 hours, but it does have to be somewhat consistent. If you do it 30 minutes a day, like if you do it after your appointment, before your appointment, anything like that, just take some time and play with the Orders app a little bit. See what's possible, right? And see what is not possible. So if need be, you can always offer the best deal without killing your CPO. That's one thing I learned once I got 4 or 5 months into the job is like, you don't have to kill your CPO. You don't have to. If you think about this, something like as simple as this, right? 512 CPO versus 480 CPO. That's 102 on the 5 pay versus 96 on the 5 pay. And it probably will save you anywhere from 20 to 30 CPO. Now, it doesn't seem like a lot, but over time is the key thing there. Right. And if you have to, there's this thing called CTR to where you can pay for it. And if it's 102 on the 5 pay and it sounds better to say 99, CTR $12, CPO is CPO. If it gets that serious. But the main thing is they shouldn't be tripping over, $102 on the 5 pay versus $96. Like 512 versus 480 sounds good, but that's why you also don't promote that number as much as you do the 5 pay. We want our customers to pay on the 5 pay. Just so you know, we want them to pay on the 5 pay. We want them to do that. All right. Like you can CTR it. So that's what I have on closing and really everything else that kind of goes into it, the setup, the build up, the drop down. Hope you guys enjoy that. If Ron, if you want to open up for any questions, I'm available for the next 10 or so minutes. If not, then it was such a pleasure.
Cool. Any questions for Portland on Zoom or here live? Yeah, go for it.
So what was the guy's name for that YouTube channel?
Alex Funk. AlexFunk. Alex Funk. One of the best YouTube channels for Cutco. I think the best YouTube channel for Cutco that you can ever find. It is super, super informative, especially if you use the information after.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good.
Thanks for telling us about it, Ron.
Yeah, you're welcome. Can you drop the latest? Thanks. Good.
Does he explain any of like the psychology behind it? I wasn't just not for just Cutco in general, just like sales as a whole.
So Alex Funk, not really. It's more Cutco based. One thing I really took seriously early on was the psychology and kind of learning that. I recommend also if you want to watch like TED Talks on just psychology, there's tons of videos out there, of course, as you know, about psychology in general. Because at the end of the day, understanding a customer rather than pitching to a customer is two different things, and that can make all the difference in the world when you're able to do that at a high level. So really recommend just doing your research. The important thing is that you take the time out to do it. Right. It's like there's all types of information that you can find, some that are good, some that are okay. It was, just taking the time out to do it is the important thing. That's what a lot of people don't do. So doing that will give you the edge for sure.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Of course.
Tyler, I would recommend some books, like look at books for psychology, but if you're looking like overall sales as a whole. I can't remember if Giftology talks about it, but I think it does. If I'm correct. Yeah, I thought so. And that's like if you ask anyone in Cutco about Giftology, they've probably read it.
Sounds good.
Yeah, Giftology is a good one. Any other questions? Anything else?
Yeah, what do you think, off the top of your head, you think probably was your most toughest objection, and did you close on it, or like how do you handle that situation?
One more time, I didn't quite hear it.
Yeah, what was your toughest objection? Did you close or did you not close?
I can't think specifically, but I would say one tough one that I deal with, or that I used to deal with a lot. Obviously, like you get it's too much objection a lot. I think the toughest one was got to talk to my wife, especially early on. Got to talk to my wife, got to talk to my husband. Yes, I did close on it. Especially now if I was to ever get that objection. I don't know about back then. Back then, hey, maybe I did, maybe I really could not tell you. I think that was one of the toughest ones because it kind of leaves you, especially as a newer rep, it kind of leaves you like, what do I say now? Like you feel like you don't want to argue with that. Um, but yeah, I would say that's probably the toughest one.
Yeah.
And there's an easy way to handle that, especially me knowing now. The best way to handle that is before you get it. You seed plant before and you say, we have a lot of people, Miss Jones. I say this like pretty much word for word when I ever do a demo. Keep in mind, I haven't done a demo in a pretty long time. But every time I do a demo, it's just seed planting before. Yeah, Ms. Jones, we have a lot of customers that sometimes they say they like to talk to their spouse or whatever. We just want to make sure that you understand that like that happens sometimes, but a lot of the times, Ms. Jones, with our 5Pay and just the way that it's so affordable over a period of time, then it really makes no difference, Ms. Jones. If that's something that, people like to do that, but it doesn't really matter just because of the main thing is just not making it a big deal, right? Like mentioning it, saying something about it, but just not making it a big deal. So like I don't even like to spend too much time on it because it's just not that big of a deal. It's just not, right? It's just not. But the easy way to handle that objection, it would be to just say something before that comes up that kind of handles it, just so they know and then they'll think in their mind, psychology wise, that if they were to try to say that in the ending, you already have something in the tank for it. So then it'll just make it more reluctant for them to say it. Then they'll have to figure out something else. But like I said earlier, if you do number one and number two correctly to the best of your ability, and you really just emphasize on building rapport and building up the value, then you shouldn't get those objections because that is the definition of a smokescreen. Like Miss Jones, if you were to go buy a purse from the mall, like would you have to call your husband? No, Miss Jones, if you went to go buy a cheeseburger from McDonald's, would you call your husband? Like, no, like, so that is the definition of a BS. BS, yeah.
Appreciate it. Good stuff. Good stuff. That's it for us.
Thank you, Portland. I'll
Ron.
I'll upload this to our YouTube and I'll send you a copy.
Perfect. Thank you guys for having me. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Of course.
See ya.
Talk to you later on.
Later on.